Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, depending on where you are. I'm John Foster. I'm President and CEO of NOCTI. And this is our second consortium meeting of the year. And of course, the first one, we looked at ideas and resources in the age of social distancing. And we thought we'd do that again because we've got a lot of positive information. And of course, we still are in that age of social distancing and COVID. So without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and get started into the presentation. We really are about supporting the CT community and providing any services that we possibly can. We've been in business of doing that for over 50 years, and we don't intend to let a virus stop us from doing that. I'm going to kind of skip through this slide as well, other than to mention that for the consortium members who may be new to the call, I'll simply say that the folks in orange are our executive board members, and the folks in gray are our regular board members, and the folks in blue are our strategic advisors. You'll be hearing from two of our board members today, Dr.Ed and Dr. Sarah Martin. We're going to focus on, the class of 2020, even though many of them are not in your buildings anymore. A little bit about what we can do with the class of 21, some professional development, and some new wrinkles with NOCTI. I should say that, when you look at the media reports and things like that, there's been 213 countries now affected by COVID, according to what I read anyway, and about 10 million of them affected worldwide, and well over 2 million of those in the US. We've got the highest rate of unemployment, and what I said last meeting that we had was that CT is really going to be called upon, I think, in the next several months to step things up. I mean, it's CT's responsibility to reinforce and retrofit the economy and get things running again once we've got this virus under control. So let's get started with the class of 2020 first. Like I said, they're probably out of your building at this point, but NOCTI still offers college credit. We meet ISO guidelines and those sort of things. And we've heard from states and teachers, and they're asking, still what they could do for the class of 2020, even though they may be graduated, and how we can help recognize them. So here's a couple of things. We do remote credentialing, remote proctoring. And we do it in a live format. Groups like the Association of Test Publishers and the National College Testing Association have come out and said that, remote proctoring is an acceptable means of obtaining credentials. And the really only approved means is by using a live proctor. I should mention that NOCTI does use live proctors, and we partner with ProctorU. So if any of your 2020 graduates still would like to take a credential with us, we'd be able to do that, whether it's at your facility or even at your student's own home. We've also extended some user codes. You can see on the screen that we've extended those post-test user codes to June 30th of 2021. So even if someone comes back to you at a later date, we'd be happy to, work them into the mix, so to speak. Amy, I think you're on the line. Would you like to take this slide?
Sure. Over the past 4 months, the world has really transitioned into more of a digital format. From business meetings to doctor's appointments to classroom learning, it's not uncommon for you to be staring into a webcam and communicating with others. But probably more importantly to know is that during the same time frame, your program completers lost a third of their senior year. And so to help ensure your completers are prepared, NOCTI is offering free digital study guides with any new orders for your 2020 completers. And those post-tests can help to ensure that your completers have mastered the knowledge and skills of their technical program, and those digital study guides serve as a way to help prepare your learners to take that post-credential. And then if you also look into digital badges, obviously with the transition to the digital age, it's great to see that digital badges are finally gaining some real traction. Educators are finding unique ways to recognize accomplishments, whether that's your drive-through graduations. I heard Ed McQuillan talk about a drive-through retirement party today, or award ceremonies or video montages that are being built by schools. Those are great, but all those flashing lights and horns do miss one thing, and that's providing something tangible for your completers. So you might want to consider using digital badges through NOCTI. We offer those for any completer that meets a benchmark on credentials. But we also have other options available for you to award badges on what you deem important. So badge earners can share their achievements, particularly those that reflect their competencies, and they can share those with anyone in the world.
So thanks, Amy. I'm going to introduce or reintroduce Dr. McQuillan again, because he's agreed to just give us kind of a personal perspective, a little bit of insight into what his particular school did to try to recognize students. And
anybody who's dealing with their seniors this year, I mean, there's a deep-seated sadness in what they've lost. And, you know, our kids left March 15th. We sort of anticipated it and closed school a few days early, kind of trained all the teachers on how to do some remote learning, made sure all of our kids had the technology and access at home. That took more than a few days, obviously. But as we went through the year and we're engaging kids, and I should say our school is grades 9 through 12, and the kids usually are in a week on, week off schedule. So 1 week they're in academics for 7 periods a day, and then the next week they're in their CTE program from 7:30 in the morning till 2:30 in the afternoon. So the relationships are deep and abiding, especially with their CTE teachers. And as we went through, we have 17 different programs, and, you know, trying to do CTE remotely, I mean, you really can't do it, generally speaking. But we did the best we could in the situation. And as we got closer to graduation in our state, and like most states, you have to sort of balance waiting for the cookbook to come out from the State Department of Ed and doing what you think is best for your kids. And we really didn't want to hold these kids till July or August. We wanted to set them off into the world and let them get going into their careers, and some of them continuing their education. So we had a drive-up graduation. I should mention we were in the first year of a brand new school building too, $145 million CTE high school, an absolute gem that these kids, these seniors as freshmen, helped design. And all through their 4 years, they watched the school being built, and then they watched the old school come down, and they were going to be the first graduating class, and they still are, but they were sort of, that was ripped away from them. So we had a small graduating class this year, but all but 2 of them showed up in the parking lot. Every space in the parking lot had their name in it, alphabetically by shop program. We had all their scholarship awards and their diplomas in a bag. Every year I give a challenge coin, which is unique every year. That's in the bag. And they drove up in the cars all decorated. They got out. We played music. They came up. They got their pictures taken. And then there were about 85 teachers lining the driveway, waving goodbye to them as they went out the parking lot. We have a couple great videos. This whole event was picked up by a number of TV folks, and afterwards, when we asked kids and families what they thought about it, because we had a lot of pushback, you know, some families, you know, let's just wait and have a real graduation. You know, we can social distance, but you know, the safety and health of everybody's number one. And really, it was probably one of the best graduations we ever had. It was fun. Kids got into it, and you know, they're off onto what's next. Knowing what they've lost, they've gained a lot too. You know, the value of relationships, their connection to one another, you know, despite the crisis. And only a crisis like this can teach us things. They're stronger, they're more resilient. We had some tragedies this year. We lost a teacher to COVID, and we haven't been able to mourn that teacher together as a community. You know, we did the best we could, and now we're trying to prepare for what's coming in the fall. And, you know, I've got a great group of teachers, and we've been working on a plan. We'll have it done in a week or two, and we're going to have half the school in at one time, smaller classes. We're going to be utilizing the NOCTI instruments to help us assess all of our kids coming back, where they're at, what they've lost. Some probably have gained being on co-op. We didn't shut co-op down. So they're doing work-based learning, and we're going to assess them all in the month of July, academically and CTE wise, so that we're prepared in the fall when they come. But this is tough stuff for kids and families, and NOCTI's been very generous in reaching out and, you know, reducing the price of that instrument that we're going to use all throughout the Minuteman High School. And I've shared it with my colleagues across the state, and I know there's several more that are going to try to do that. We've got to find out where they are before they come back, because our time's going to be limited.
Thanks very much, Ed. It really speaks to the bond that's formed with you know, CT and the whole CT community, teachers to students, administrators to students, teachers to administrators, and I really appreciate you taking the time to you know, share a little bit about what you guys did. So thanks. And you know, if folks have questions, they can certainly try to put them in the chat, and we'll try to take care of them as best we can. And Ed's contact information will be in the last slide too, if any of you'd like to reach out.
Absolutely.
Amy, you want to take this next couple slides?
So like you, we have been watching the news, but we've also been learning about plans in our own states and have been talking to our colleagues around the nation. And while there are many things that still need definition, one thing is for certain, and that's that the 2021 school year is going to be off to a very different start. So we just want to make sure you know that we are here and ready to help you with tools to ensure that your CTE students can be successful. One of the things that we're doing is, as John mentioned earlier, is that we have extended our user codes. And so what that means, as you know, 90% of our exams or our credentials are delivered in an online format. So those come in the form of a user code. So we made the decision soon after COVID was in full swing that we were going to automatically extend all post-test user codes through June 30th of 2021. So that's automatically been done. If you had an order of post-tests that you are not able to use for the 2019-20 school year, those will be available for you for the following school. But we want to make sure that if you do have any questions about any of the products that you've ordered, that you reach out to us, and we'll make sure that we can work with you to determine the best option to take advantage of those tools.
Thanks, Amy. One of the other things that we talked about last time was the COVID slide, so to speak. I mean, you know, if you know anything about John Hattie's research in metadata and effect sizes and things like that, you might remember that, you know, the summer slide has about a negative 13% effect in summer learning in a normal school setting. So, you know, you have to wonder how much of that slide happens when you double the time. I mean, students haven't been in school for, well, when they start in the fall, if school starts in its normal time period, it's going to be close to 6 months. And you think about the impact of that on a CTE students. You know, CTE is really a lot about process and a lot about tactile kind of things. And so, you know, you start to think, you know, how are students going to learn if they haven't touched a tool? Would you be comfortable going to a nurse who hasn't drawn blood in, I don't know, 6 months, or having a brake job done by a technician who hasn't picked up a wrench in six months or so? It's a tough situation. And so one of the things we've done is we've put together a little package for our pre-tests. And what we're hoping that folks will do is take advantage of that pre-test with with all your students as soon as possible, as soon as you go back into your buildings, or even if you don't go back into your buildings, you can utilize those pre-tests in the student's home if you like. And that'll give your instructors a benchmark, a place to start. We think there'll be learning gains and losses. You heard Ed mention that a lot of his students went out on co-op during that time period. So you would think in a situation like that, there'd be significant learning gains, whether they were, juniors or seniors or sophomores or whatever. They could have increased their competency, but the teacher may or may not know that. So by utilization of a pretest tied to national standards, you can at least establish a benchmark, and you can establish a spot where you can develop individualized instruction. So we hope that folks will take advantage of that when we think it's probably one of the strongest pieces that we can offer the CT community. So with that, I'd like to introduce another of our board members and, old friend and professional colleague, Dr. Sarah Martin. Dr. Sarah Martin is from the state of Texas. We're going to actually start with a real brief 2-minute video from her superintendent.
Hello, KATY ISD. I know it's been a challenging past few months as our families, students, and staff have dealt with the uncertainties that have resulted from the COVID-19 pandemic. While this health crisis is far from over, Governor Abbott has announced that schools may resume for in-person instruction this fall. In addition to traditional in-person instruction, school districts will also have the option to provide remote online learning for those students who may wish to participate in that learning model. This is exciting news, as our district has already begun preparations to offer these instructional models beginning in August when we return. However, instruction may look a little different this fall for some of our students due to necessary health and safety protocols. With that said, I can promise you that we will be taking every precaution to ensure our students' academic attainment this past spring is measured, that our kids are caught up as needed, and instruction is delivered in safe and healthy environments. Also know that we are not making any changes to the 2020-2021 instructional calendar at this time. The first day of school for students is still August 19th. Though we are looking at very slight adjustments to the start and end times of the instructional day to ensure safety measures can be met, for example, sanitizing buses between routes. The board, staff, and I want to ensure your voices guide the safe return of students as we finalize plans over the coming month. This week, our KATY ISD parents will receive an emailed survey that will be open from Monday through Thursday. The survey will take less than 10 minutes to complete, and we would look forward to your candid feedback. Thank you, and we can't wait to see our students this fall.
Sarah, with that introduction, would you like to say a few words about what's happening in Texas and your particular school district?
Sure. So KATY ISD is the 6th largest district in the state of Texas. We service over 84,000 students, and about 20,000 students grades 9 through 12 are in CTE courses. So we have a huge task ahead of us in trying to get all of those students back to school, right? So Dr. Gregorski mentioned a survey that went out yesterday, and to all the parents, getting their feedback on whether or not they feel comfortable bringing their kids back to school. Do they have the supports at home to do online learning? How do they feel about a hybrid model? And you also heard that we are going to adjust our start and end times. Again, we are about 84,000 students in our district. We're 181 square miles. So we have a large area to bus kids back and forth, right? So I'm on a secondary ed team that's going to look at how we're going to deliver instruction, not just for career and tech ed, but how we're going to deliver instruction grades 6 through 12 in regards to core academics as well. And so this meeting was very timely. It happened yesterday, and that was our intro meeting. as to what is the day going to look like, or how is instruction going to look like. So I'd like to just share with you some of the questions we were to ponder in our meeting yesterday. One of them being to share or develop a model that includes a percentage of students going face-to-face while others are going online. And what does that look like? Does that mean that teachers are going to have online kids in the same class period as they're going to have face-to-face kids, or will there be online teachers and then face-to-face teachers, or will they be the same? So we're looking at those. They did ask for us to consider going all virtually for our students report, for our core academic students, and then students reporting to school for face-to-face instruction for fine arts, CTE, and athletics. And what does a blended instructional day look like? And how do you compensate teachers and that type of thing? And then we're also charged with our priority of getting special education, pre-K and K kids back, but and what does that look like for parents? So when we talk about delivering instruction for career and tech ed, we are looking very similarly to what Ed just mentioned his school already does, and that is a week on, week off. So I mentioned going to a block schedule. So we may be looking at a block schedule where kids are doing all their theory, and then they're coming in for a chunk of time during the day to do their hands-on. So that's kind of our nutshell. It's a very different beast, because not only do I have 9 high schools and 17 junior highs that all offering robust CTE programs, but we have a CTE center as well. And what do we do for those students who already have a block of time? Because our CTE runs on either a 2-hour day. We have 2 schedules. We either have 3 2-hour blocks, or we have 2 3-hour blocks. So trying to deliver instruction and getting those hands-on components in there as well. It's crazy because we're so large, and trying to make that work. But I do have quite a bit of support for career and tech ed here. We were able to, I just want to kind of tag on certifications, because that's an initiative that really started gung-ho in 2013. I came from a different state that had CTE certifications as part of their graduation requirements, and then moving to Texas, where it was just kind of just starting out. But prior to spring break, we only gave about 840 certifications. After spring break until June 16th, because that's the last time that we were testing students, we gave over 1,400. So not as much as we wanted to end up the school year with, but so much more than I anticipated us getting after we were shut down for COVID. And along with that window of time after spring break, my team was actually quarantined, because the second day we started certification training, we were then notified that one of the people in the building tested positive. So we had to shut down testing, reschedule all those students, and then be on quarantine for 14 days. And we still managed to do over 1,400 in that small time period. So it was and with that, 6-foot distance, only 5 kids in a room, that kind of stuff. So it was exciting.
Sounds crazy.
It was.
Well, thanks, Sarah. And again, like Ed, Sarah's contact information will be on the last slide. And if you have questions, please feel free to kind of reach out to her. I want to talk just a little bit about work-based learning, because both of our presenters actually mentioned it. One of the things that we've noticed as the Perkins plans get approved by Secretary DeVos, a number of states, I think about 14, my last count, have decided to use work-based learning as the primary method for secondary accountability. In those states, we think the icons of those states are on the screen, at least as far as we know from the last count we did. But you start to think, how are those students in work-based learning programs how are we going to know if they're ready to go out in work-based learning programs? We have a we have a credential called the 21st Century Skills for Workplace Success, and we think that that's an ideal way to serve as a kind of a threshold for students exiting a building and going into a work-based learning program. Maybe a school or a state could set a pass rate that they had to get through before they moved on to work-based learning. The other question regarding work-based learning is, how will you know if the students progressed in this work-based learning program? So you could also utilize that 21st Century Skills for Workplace Success as a post-test at the conclusion of your cooperative education or your internship or whatever format, simulated workplace, whatever work-based learning format or mode that you chose to use. So we would certainly advocate for the use of that one.
So responsibilities have changed dramatically for teachers and administrators since COVID hit, from transitioning to remote work arrangements, to delivering content to your learners, to ensuring that your school environment is sanitized. It's probably been a real challenge for both teachers and administrators to be able to focus on their own set of skills while trying to maintain some sense of continuity for their CTE learners. So we just like to remind you of some professional development options that are available through NOCTI, most of which can be done on your own time. NOCTI offers a series of webinars for teachers that are focused on the joint publication that was developed by NOCTI and ACTE. Other topics that we cover in our on-demand web series include methods for evaluating quality technical credentials, strategies for getting the most out of your data, and also there's some options out there about discovering how pretest can work for your programs. And that, as Ed had said, they're planning to use pretest as a way to determine where their students are. So that might be a timely webinar to check out. And in addition, our presentation from May is out there, our May consortium meeting, and then also a virtual presentation that we recently did for ACTE's Region 2 conference.
We do have some virtual professional development available that we've developed. We have kind of a boot camp, if you will, that we put together for both new CTE teachers and new CTE administrators. The boot camp takes place over 5 two-hour sessions, and of course it's facilitated through Zoom. We use the Zoom rooms to individualize the instruction, and essentially we put together the professional development based on the ACTE NOCTI professional development textbooks that we've assembled. For example, with the new CTE teacher professional development, we take a look at helping you fit into your new environment, starting your journey as a teacher, your role in the classroom, your support system, your students, big picture planning, designing lesson plans, and a little bit about assessment basics as well. We also have a similar kind of program for new CTE administrators that also talks about things like starting your journey and acting as a kind of a sponge the first year or so you're in your new school. Talks about your employer community, talks about building your budget, about measuring your school, about continuous improvement, and making the push, of course, towards credentials, and lastly, the importance of data. The new CT administrator course that we put together in a blended kind of environment. You can see the topics there on the screen. You can also see the text that we utilize. Those first two are the ones that we have developed with ACTE, and the third one there is a book by Mark Forget, which talks about learning styles and effect sizes and those sorts of things. We do have a third book in the administrative series, and it follows the same pattern, 10 chapters, and of course it has 30 case studies in each of those. And in this case, we have some topics like how to effectively change jobs, about not burning bridges behind you, that kind of thing. We have some things about data safety and data security. We have some messages in there from folks out of this country. We have some case studies from Australia. We even have one from one of our philanthropic providers or philanthropic funders. So we certainly recommend that new one once it hits the public, so to speak. This is something new for us. We've been talking to a number of different states, and they really wanted to have a method of recruiting quality CTE teachers and administrators. So this is kind of just for the consortium body, and of course for our board members who are on the call. But we are in the process of formatting out teacher and administrator credentials based on some of the content that you just saw in the professional development and also in the text that we have with ACTE. So this would be, you know, a pedagogical type of assessment for new CTE teachers and for new CTE administrators. So I can't tell you much more about it than that, just to kind of whet your appetite and, you know, stay tuned, so to speak. I think with that, we can take a couple question and answers. We're a bit over time where I thought we'd be, and I apologize for that. Should also mention that we wanted to share with you the you know, the contact information that I mentioned. And early on, somebody did ask about the recording. Obviously, I've kind of technology's kind of fouled that up, but I will go back and create a little MP4 that will have the slides and the activity in it for you and get that out. And thanks to Ed and Sarah for jumping in and helping out there. And thanks, everybody.
Thanks, John.
Bye-bye.